Okay. It's just doing the little scrolly doom of, right, I think we're live.
Excellent. I love being live.
However, I also think I need to close Facebook down, then I don't get that background repeaty thing. There we go. Hello, anybody watching on Facebook. I'm going to attempt 2 devices at once. Hello. I'm a very, very hoarse Claire Warner. I am the founder of Thrive, and I'm delighted to have with me this evening our 2 Thrive individual giving experts, John Lepp and Jen Love. I keep getting that the wrong way around. Does anybody else ever call you John Love and Jen Lepp? I'm really sorry. I keep doing that. I keep typing it. Anyway, John Lepp, Jen Love of Agents of Good. We are live in the Fundraising Directors Facebook group. I am admitting people as we speak, and we have a couple of questions, but John and Jen, first off, could you, just between you, give a couple of minutes overview of what your view of Thrive is so far, just while I collected these questions together, and then we'll jump in and start answering them. Is that okay?
Sounds great, and welcome everybody as you're arriving. So John and I are thrilled to have been part of the Thrive group so far this year. One of the things that I really love about group coaching is that I do think that we all learn from each other in ways that has always been the hallmark of the Agents of Good approach, is that we want to work with other people. We have an abundance mindset. We want to learn and share with peers. And so being able to be part of a group coaching system allows us to both learn from the other experts and also the other people who are in the sessions. In fact, as I said in one of the last ones, it was Paul who brought to me, as a very proud writer of fundraising for 25 years, the best call to action that I've ever seen in my entire life. So it's a learning opportunity for everyone. And I think the Thrive model really speaks to our ongoing commitment to learning from each other and learning from our clients and our colleagues and the sector more broadly. John, what did I miss?
Brilliant. I mean, it's always an opportunity for us to connect with our friends and colleagues who are in the trenches and doing their work. And, we all get our head down and in a space where it's like, you kind of forget maybe some of the basic fundamentals of just really good individual giving. And that's where I'm thrilled to be able to still talk about these simple things, these simple ways we can connect with donors, and to share that with everyone. Like you said, Jen, it's a learning, because I like to see what people are doing. It helps me in my other coaching work and in my day-to-day work and stuff. And Jen and I just love chatting with folks. So I love it. It's a lot of fun for me, for sure.
Amazing. Right. Can I kick off with the first question we've had, which is a fairly detailed question? Right. So it says, a growing charity with a tiny database of IG donors seeks to test a Facebook acquisition campaign. We have the ideas, but needs to test to produce data on which we can lobby to go big on investment. Any suggestions of sensible sample sizes for extrapolation? So I understand that you're the IG side of this. We're all pointing to, I'm hoping John's in the same place on everybody's screen. But John, give us you're the knowledge within the 3 of us on Facebook. Talk us through what, I think it's Vanessa that's asked this question, might want to try, please. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a complicated question and a good one. I was thinking, since you mentioned this earlier, Claire, before we got on the call, that if you have a small database of individual giving donors who mostly like to give to your mail, trying to go to Facebook to find new donors for your organization and then mail them isn't going to work. So that's the first thing. There's nothing wrong with using Facebook to find new donors. Every charity is trying to find new donors. That's what we're all about. And using mail has become more expensive and is more difficult, but they are still better donors. So I would still say, if you can, use traditional means to find new donors for your organization. However, we're talking about Facebook. The cool thing about Facebook is you can just be so targeted. You can target geographically, by interests. by age. You know what your donors like, you know how old they are, you know who they are. So you're going to use that information to try to find other donors like them. And again, Facebook allows you to be very targeted in your in who you're trying to appeal to. You can invest a modest amount of money. Then you have to make sure, of course, that your creative and your offer are on point and what the journey is. If you want someone to click your ad and go to your donate page and give a cash gift, that's your key metric. Everything else doesn't matter. All the clicks and all that stuff. The only real metric is someone actually going and giving the gift. So if you spend $100 and you have no one or one person click through and actually give you a gift, and you had 10,000 people click on the ad, probably not very good. There's some things you can work on. So this is a very complicated question, of which I'm giving you a 5-second spiel on, but Facebook is very, very cool. Just realize now you have a donor who's given to an ad, and what you say to them next also is part of your journey in terms of how do you follow up with them? How do you thank them? How do you show them what you did with their gift? And then how do you ask them again? And again, if you try to take a Facebook donor and send them a mail pack, that might be a really tough second gift opportunity, right? So you do have to be very, very, very thoughtful with that stuff.
And I actually, since Claire brought this question up just before we started recording, I thought of a slightly intelligent thing to say about this, which is not my area of expertise, as John knows all too well. But two things that you did say was growing charity, tiny database. And I think I just want to honor and normalize the fact that you're actually in a position to be able to try anything, see what happens, and it's all learning. So statistically valid or not, you're still learning something, because the thing that we get so caught up in is, oh, did this work? Can I scale this? Is this expandable? If you're a growing charity with a small database, ask the people who already love you, invite them to be part of the conversation. If somebody does join you and clicks to give and becomes a monthly donor, a regular giver, then go to them and be like, hey, you're awesome. Why did you do this? How can I find more fabulous people like you? Facebook was intended to not be a broadcast medium. So use that to your advantage as a charity to build on the relationships that you do have with the people who already love you, and just ask them what they think. Ask them what they think is awesome. Ask them why they gave in the first place, and build from that position of growth and tiny, which is an enviable position for lots of larger organizations who have an opposite problem, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I get what Vanessa's asking in the question. So as you're building the campaign, and it kind of shows you, doesn't it, on Facebook, how big a potential audience you might have. And I guess it's that way up between very niche, very small, but small number of people, to slightly less niche, or widening your geographical area, or widening your areas of interest, those kind of things. Have you any insight into, or suggestions into, whether to keep small and niche and just measure that, or go big and accept that it's bigger and slightly less targeted? As a first off, which would you do?
Direct marketing is always about like niche and targeted, right? And I always want to kind of keep it, the more small you can keep it, the more you can learn. I think if you do a massive campaign, a national campaign that goes across the whole country, again, there's too much data. There are too many variables in that. So again, if you can remove variables and keep it very targeted in terms of your creative, in terms of same thing, like don't have 2 different offers, don't have 3 different pieces of creative unless you are testing them all head to head, because we want to limit the amount of factors. So again, you can learn more by being targeted, but direct response and direct marketing is supposed to be targeted. It's supposed to be a personal, appeal from me to you. And I'm using Facebook as a channel to do that. But let's not forget, you're not just a big voice funnel for like trying to attract all people. Let's try the more targeted, and the reminder where you're actually targeting individuals. I think then it's gonna serve you well in terms of what you're trying to accomplish. But again, that's just a simple answer for a complicated question.
Yeah, and I was going to add to that too, Vanessa, same idea that if you are looking to test a few things, don't test everything. Like, don't test a monthly giving offer to help seniors against a legacy offer focused on 40-year-olds, because then you're not, so test creative, or test offer, or test voice/copy. one at a time, and then you can overlay and sequence them in as many ways as you can pivot table an Excel spreadsheet or whatever, however the metrics are that you're using, but make sure that you're testing things that you can actually measure and adjust for, as opposed to totally different things that are in different realms of your organization that will be then hard to extrapolate or scale or do again.
Awesome. Okay. So let me ask another question that comes up a lot, which is, an organization, not a large national organization, but any organization that only has regular individual givers by mistake, as in not by design, they just exist rather than any actual formalized scheme. How would you encourage them? Where should an organization start with setting up their first regular giver, their individual giving scheme? How would they go about doing that? Not necessarily regular, but just how do you set up your first IG scheme if everything that you currently have is purely incoming rather than outgoing, if that makes sense?
So I'll start, John, and then I'll kick this one over to you. I would say that
I'm still trying to figure out the question, but go on. I'll see.
See, that's what I was hoping would happen. But I think if you are starting from a place of, we're an organization that has a relatively small database that's come in from people who have given unsolicited gifts or given in memorial gifts or given gifts in honor or have given.
That's the word I was looking for. Unsolicited is the word that I couldn't pull from there to here.
In Canada, we call it white mail, which makes no sense, but that's what we call it, or used to call it. So I would actually start with them, like the answer I just gave before, which is to do a small survey to the people that you do have to say, how did you come here? Why did you give to us in the first place? What matters to you about what we're doing? And open those conversations. I mean, again, organizations with smaller donor bases, whether that's a small group of monthly donors or a small group of legacy donors or a small group of people who give you anything, are an excellent starting point for you to say, who are you and why are you here and what matters most to you and how can we find more people like you? So that's the first bit. And then the second bit, I would say, which is something that we hear all the time, the question about how often should we be asking, which is put in giant air quotes. The answer is probably a lot more than you are. So certainly asking for people to give at the end of the year, certainly asking for people to give at the beginning of the year and stand behind you for, here's what we did in 2021 with your awesome support. Here is our searing vision for 2022. And then a couple of other times in the year, depending on your organization. If you do things in the summertime or if you do things at different times of year, then ask when it's appropriate. But that if you think, oh, are we asking people too much? Are we communicating too much? The answer is almost always no, unless what you're sending is crap. No one complains about, as our beloved Simon Scriver has always said, no one complains about good fundraising. People complain about crap fundraising that makes them feel unseen, unheard, and unappreciated. So if you see people, hear people, and appreciate them, you can do a lot more.
The only thing I would add to that is to Jen's point about the asking donors, something that doesn't happen really very often for your donors, them being asked anything except to give money. And so something we try to build into all of our work and our programs, and again, remind people that we are having conversations with other humans that we just don't happen to call donors. And they have things to share about themselves. They have stories they want to tell about themselves. And we have the amazing opportunity to let them do that. And so we try to build in opportunities for that all over the place, almost every appeal, because we want donors talking back to us. That's a really, really powerful emotional connection that we have as humans is to have a conversation, right? Share our values, share our emotions. So that's the one thing. The other thing I was thinking that I've completely just blanked out on was
tell. I can.
I was like, anyways, doesn't matter. So that for me, that's the one thing is if to grow your program, you do want to learn more about your donors because those are the people you're looking for out there. And the more you understand about who you already have, then again, you can use that information to find other people like them in any channel.
And I think the other, to build on what John and I are both talking about, it is a bit of a start as you mean to go on. Start with asking the people who already care about you, and then see if you can do more with that. And just start somewhere. Like so often, especially fundraisers who are pulled in a million different directions. And if you're in a small shop, you're doing everything from soup to nuts, and being able to just sort of start somewhere and say, well, I can't put together an integrated, comprehensive 6-month campaign, so I'll do nothing, is not the right answer. The right answer can be, let me float something out to a few people. Let me make a few phone calls. Let me put a few emails out. Let me drop a few things in the mail. Just start somewhere and you'll always start learning from that point.
Nice one, thank you. And then I saw on the beloved fundraising chat, I think it was last week or the week before, I nearly tagged you in the question. Somebody had asked, what value of gift should you start sending a personalized thank you letter rather than a standard thank you letter? And I thought I can see John's face. I thought your opinion on the answer to this question, there will be no children watching, I'm fairly sure, John, so you're free to say what you, but yeah, so it was a question, it was something around, we have a standard thank you letter, what level of gift should we personalize the letter around? Now, this is not to I don't want to offend the person who asked the question. I've been asked the question so many times, and I've also, at what level do we send thank yous is another of my favorite questions, but talk to us about thank yous in general, because I know this is one of your favorite subjects. Tell me about thank yous.
The only thing I would say is, can we remind ourselves for 1 second that every gift to that donor is a major gift to them? And I believe to be insulting that because Dale Tohill took a moment to give me $50 to feel amazing about herself, that somehow she doesn't deserve a moment of my gratitude and appreciation for me to say, you're amazing and I appreciate you so much, that she doesn't deserve that. So yeah, I never want to I never forget for one moment or take advantage of the fact that people are generous and amazing for the work that they do. And I'm going to do everything to make sure I earn and keep that. And that means I have to do some work. I do that in my real life with all the people who are important to me, regardless if someone just gives me a flower or buys me a car. To me, it's a beautiful moment of generosity that I'm going to acknowledge. So that's my short question. Everyone deserves a moment to say thank you in a card. It only takes a moment of your time, and the fact you're too big and too busy is not my fucking problem as a donor. I've done an amazing thing, and you should say thank you for that. So there you
go. I will provide a slightly more, hopefully balanced and less sweary response, but I'll answer it in 2 parts. One is that I do totally, I mean, of course, I completely agree with John about this. There is this idea of major donors and minor donors is about our work as fundraisers and our timesheets, which is entirely distinct and different from who that person is and why they reached into their heart to make a donation today. So I think, yes, everybody should get a genuine, meaningful thank you from the charities they support. And one really easy way to do that is just to make sure that for every single campaign you have a customized thank you letter. And this is something that we do as a part of our services. Like when we work with a client on a new project, we do the project from start to finish, including the very specific thank you letter that is unique to that campaign, so that when a donor gives to your year-end campaign, which is about buying defibrillators for the new children's hospital in Newfoundland, which I was just talking about today, the thank you letter says, Claire, you brightened up my whole day by deciding to reach into your heart and soul and make a donation to help us buy more defibrillators. That's number one, is make the thank you letter customized to the ask. And the second piece is, because we're busy and we have lots of things we need to do, if you do have one of those standard thank you letters or emails that goes out with every appeal, at least refresh it every couple of months, every month if you can, or trigger it so that no donor gets the exact same thank you letter twice. Like, there are a couple of systems you can put into place to either freshen up the thing that you send that is auto-generated, or trigger a different series if that donor has given twice in the last 2 months and is going to get an identical thank you email or thank you response. That can be like, technology can help us with these things. Let the technology do that work for you and allow yourself to just be part of telling the story to say thank you.
Awesome.
Hopefully it's slightly more practical.
Nice one. Thank you very much. Jen, you referred to it briefly earlier, but so in our Thrive call a couple of weeks ago, as you already said, we looked through either upcoming or very recent in the past direct response campaigns that members had run. It was, I think it was the first Thrive call I've cried on, although I've wanted to on a number of occasions. Paul rang me straight after that call, and I cried again. So for those of you who aren't in Thrive, we went through these packs, and Paul works for, sorry Paul, I know you're on the call, I'm going to get your organisation wrong, Children's Hospice Southwest.
Couldn't tell you geography, but hospice for sure.
They'd done a campaign where there was an ask around a family, and there were different members of the family involved in the campaign. And while, as Jen said, it was did you say the greatest direct ask? Or so I can't remember your words. I don't want to get it wrong. But even then, the suggestions you came up with about how then you could use other members of the family to follow that up and to then go out into wider comms, just obviously hadn't occurred to Paul, hadn't occurred to me, but I know it's all now written out in a very intricate plan. But that one ask, if you will, from that example Paul gave, how long would you estimate the life of that campaign now is? If he's got his ask, he then sends a thank you from another family member. It's then reported on by another family member in the next newsletter, and then that's kind of got first, second, third, and fourth ripples to it. That one campaign, hasn't it? And I don't know how often should you be running one of those a year, I guess is my question.
Well, so yeah, and I'll answer that in two different ways. The first is that, as Paul did, I mean, the way that we always approach work with any new project is to say, who can we talk to, right? So in the case of Children's Hospice, there was the family members to talk to, there's the doctors and nurses within the facility to talk to, there's the program people who are connected in other parts of this same program. So we always cast a very wide net and say, give us more information than you think we need, and let us have 15, 20, half an hour, 45-minute, 3-hour-long conversations with as many people who will talk to us as the storytellers. And then, I mean, with every campaign we would have certainly months of ongoing touch points. And certainly in the case of the story with Paul, I would think they could use that well through the year end, into the new year, and even into the springtime, because you've talked to different people who are giving you different angles and different lenses on a story. And just to shrink the timeline a bit, one of the things that we're talking with clients about right now are year-end campaigns that are starting here in Canada, start anytime from middle of October or so, go right through to the end of December. And you've got a couple of mail packs, you've got a couple of emails, you've got a handful of social media posts, you've probably got some phoning or other components. The more angles and voices you can get around the story, the more times you have different doors for people to enter, different ways that, oh, now I'm hearing from the mom in the story. Oh, now I'm hearing from a sibling. Oh, now I'm hearing from a doctor. Oh, now I'm hearing from a nurse. And it all layers in on the same ideas. So I mean, months and months and months you can use a great story for.
And I guess one of the things about that is it helps reduce I've got to come up with 6 new ideas every month. Well, if you've got one like that's multidimensional, you just keep using the next dimension and the next, and then kind of a report back on the first bit. And amazing.
And I think we also think, sorry, John, let me just say this and then I'll let you go. I think we also assume that our donors are reading every single word of every single perfect thing we say, and they're not. They're busy, they're distracted, and what they want is a moment of, oh, I care about this. And it's even better if they get a moment of, oh, I care about this. And this rings a bell. I'm already a part of this story. I already know a little bit about what's going on here. Even if I don't remember the details of who the family is and the help they got, I am already immersed. And that's a huge advantage, because no one's sitting at home waiting for your year-end appeal. People are sitting at home waiting to hear about the charities they love and how they can do something about it today. So don't overthink that bit, because no one's going to notice whether you start too many sentences with "and" or whether your paragraphs are too long. The only person who's going to notice that is your comms director or your bitchy executive director.
Or John Lepp.
The only thing I was going to add is from 50,000 feet in the air, the reason why, like Jen, I love coaching, we love working with Thrive and doing this sort of work with Paul and Emma. These are really bright and intelligent, amazing folks doing really great work. But what it does is it's direct information, right? So by us all sharing together, again, where you're giving tools to one another to actually take their program above and beyond, whether you just working in your own office by yourself, in going to a conference and listen to someone blab for an hour and a half about a topic that you kind of want to know more about. This is really direct. And so you're learning from each other, like Jen said at the top of the call. We're learning from each other, but also we're giving you the tools to take with you for the rest of your career. And that's why I love teaching. I love teaching because we're creating students of a frame of mind in terms of our work and removing some of the stigmas and voodoo out of it and stuff. This work can be talking to other humans actually isn't really that difficult. We do it every single day. But I think when we enter the doors of our offices, sometimes we forget the rules of engagement of doing that. So I like to sort of reconnecting to basics and fundamentals. And again, it's direct information that you can use in every facet of your work. And I find it really fascinating. So
I'm really glad you said that, buddy, as always, because it does bring me back to the thing I wanted to say before. And I even circled it on my little pad here. That's one of the things why I think the clinic that Claire was just talking about that we were doing a few weeks ago in our last Thrive call, where everybody brought a current or recent project for us to all review. It's one of those things where when you're actually looking at somebody else's work with an open and tender heart and with lots of kindness to be able to say, what did I learn here? What could I do differently? As a participant in the Thrive program, you might not have even realized that you were going to ask yourself those questions, or it's one of those things where you would never know that that would be helpful advice to you until down the road, you're like, oh, I remember in this clinic I had when we were reviewing somebody else's work, there was this and this and this and this, and then you can come back to it. And I use the example of the book, What to Expect When You're Expecting, which many of us read when we were pregnant and expecting children. And half of those questions, I'm like, hopefully I'm never going to need to know this, but you still read it. And then when it happens, you're like, I know what to do. Where's page 75 about what's going on? So it is a bit of that same philosophy that you don't know the questions that you need answered until someone else asks them. And that's a huge gift of the Thrive program, which I think benefits all of us.
Awesome. So we've referred to it a few times now. Thrive, the program that John and Jen and I and 7 other fundraising, different income stream and specialism experts work on. Intake 2 opens on Monday. Monday is the 4th of October. If you want to find out more information about that, you're going to find it anyway because it's going to be appearing in this Facebook group a lot. Next week, Zoe, Amar and Wayne. I was going to say Wayne Sleep then. I'm really sorry, Wayne. Not Wayne Sleep. That's what I need. Zoe, Amar.
Murray.
Wayne Murray, not Wayne Sleep. Are hosting a full masterclass about, with the uncertainties that we know still are out there in terms of actual face-to-face things, whether it be events, whether it be community fundraising, whether it be just engagement activity. How can you use strategy, digital and innovation to underpin and put some certainties around some of the stuff that we're not certain about? I know there'll be many of you at the moment working, excuse me, on next year's plans and budgets and targets. So that's Tuesday afternoon. Sign up for it, even if you can't attend, because you will be sent a link to the video afterwards to watch. If you have any questions for them, send them in. I will put in the thread below the Facebook post the link for how to sign up to that, because if I put it in the chat, it'll disappear like my voice. John, Jen, just tell people where they can find you on social so they can come and hound you themselves.
I'm easily findable most of the time on Twitter at John Lepp, JohnLepp, or email john@agentsofgood.org. Those are the 2 easiest ways to find me, but I'm always love to talk to fellow nerds about direct response and individual giving because that's my jam. So I'm happy to chat with anyone anytime.
Thanks, Jen.
And you can find me on Twitter, less active than John, but certainly more dogs and Canadian art, if that's of interest to other people, at Agent Jen Love. And yeah, you can find me by email too at jen@agentsofgood.org. And I think that Wayne and Zoe's masterclass sounds amazing. And we really do hope that lots of people get involved in Take Two. Open for a fortnight. Don't I sound all British?
Awesome. Is fortnight not a Canadian word? Do you not use that word?
We only choose the worst parts of the Commonwealth to continue on, not the best parts. So no, we don't say fortnight here.
Okay, 2 weeks. Monday, open for 2 weeks from Monday. Obviously there'll be all the links in the Facebook group. John, Jen, thank you very much for joining me this evening. I am going to go back to bed now with my hot Ribena that has just been shown at me around the door. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching live and those who watch again. And I think the next one, I'm not even going to say who the next one is because I'll get it wrong, but all of our Thrive experts are lined up to come and do a live. So thanks, guys. Take care. I'll see you in a few weeks. And everybody on Facebook, take care and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.